All right. Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday to you. A couple things for today going into next week. I just want to touch on a couple of questions that might have come up regarding the grading process, particularly the reassessment process, or what happens if your student is maybe they performed really poorly on an assessment, as well as kind of the big question of why do we do this at all? Or why do we assess students like this at all? And so I just want to touch on a couple things from last week. Ultimately, we want to find the grading process that is the truest, purest measurement of a student's ability to demonstrate something or their skill development or what they know. We just want that really to replicate what they know and can do. And so the standards-based grading is we believe is more of a shift in that direction. You're starting to see this more across other school districts. What you're going to be seeing going into next year, and it's still in the works, but in general, you're going to start seeing more of this process right here, more of this 4, 3, 2, 1 scale. And ultimately, why we do this then is, like I said, we would try to ensure that all students have an concrete understanding of the standards. And ultimately then, as the reassessment process comes around, let's say a student maybe does poorly on an assessment, 2 out of 4, they're not satisfied, I'm not satisfied, we're not where we want to be. If a student isn't performing well, pirate time is essential. We've used that this year. Pirate time fits right into the middle of our day. I will request a student, and we're going to work to build up their skills to the point where we feel like they are competent in that skill or in that standard. Ultimately, the final score, the projects, that final assessment, that's really the paramount. Homework is really the practice. True standards-based grading, the homework is purely practice. It's not graded. So just like a sport, I mentioned this last week, just like a sport, homework is the practice, and the assessments are the games. And so your tests, your projects that the students are going to have, those are the ones that are going to be truly graded. Slightly different, we are going to have grades for homework assignments. However, they are going to be of lesser value because we really want that emphasis on the practice, and we want that final assessment to be the true measurement, not just the small pieces. That project is really the most important, or that test is really the most important. So teaching doesn't necessarily change. What we do during the class doesn't really change as it had been before. We still do activities, we still take notes, we still use study guides to help guide our learning, but that final assessment is really the most important. All right, moving on to last week. Last week we touched on that concept of wants and needs. We use that as a transition topic from our government unit. Talking about what do we really want and what do we really need in class. We used an activity where students had to, we have a tab here, Marshmallow Tower Challenge, where students were given limited resources and limited ideas to work with in order to build the tallest freestanding marshmallow tower. So there were 3 challenges, and with each challenge, they had additional resources, and they were actually able to add people and add ideas as well. And so that idea of working in isolation versus working in an environment where you're able to trade ideas and add resources, trying to get them to think about the ease of completing a task and the quality with which they're able to meet their needs and complete that task. So that then leads into our unit on trade and the Silk Road and trade. And so we are using Ancient Silk Road as our basis, and these are the guiding questions for our unit. These questions down here are really what are guiding our learning for this unit. And particularly that second question, which I should have put off to the top. But that guiding question of how does trade impact society today, we're not only going to look at this in ancient terms, we really want to start thinking about how does that interconnectedness between societies in different parts of the world, cultures, economic centers, how is that affecting us? Who are the winners and losers? What are the positive and negative effects of being so connected? So we'll use the Silk Road as our basis. We're going to be using a simulation, probably midweek, mid to late week, to get them involved in connecting with those concepts of supply and demand. I'm drawing a blank here. Supply, demand, scarcity. Those concepts are all going to come into play, and I want them to get a real feel for how is the value of an item determined. If an item is scarce and we all need it, how is that impacting the price and the value of it? How does it impact the price of something if there's high demand? If supply and demand are high or low. And then going into Friday, we're going to have really just a quick quiz. We want to make sure that we're getting some of these concepts down. We're going to do a quiz over number 1, number 4, 5, and number 6. So 1, 4, 5, and 6. If you want to put that in your calendar or let your student know that, that'll be communicated to them at the beginning of the week. So again, just trying to get them to think globally, not just how did trade really revolutionize the ancient world along the Silk Road, but also today. So if you have any questions about this week, by all means, please send me an email. I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. Otherwise, have a great Sunday.